everyone. Thank you for joining us on today's webinar. My name is Landra Page, and I'm the Community Relations Associate at Belmont Village Lakeway. Belmont Village Senior Living is the leading provider of assisted living and an award-winning memory care program. If you would like to learn more information about the senior living solutions that our Belmont Village Westlake Hills community or Belmont Village Lakeway community can provide, please do not hesitate to reach out to either Jamie Smithson and/or I. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the Q&A box in your control panel instead of the former chat feature. Any questions submitted during the presentation will be answered at the end. Today, our webinar on a day in the life of Circle of Friends will be presented by Beverly Sanborn. Beverly Sanborn is a nationally recognized gerontologist with more than 30 years of experience working with seniors and their families. She is a sought-after expert in dementia care and regularly gives lectures and workshops nationally and internationally. Now, without further ado, Beverly.
Okay, thank you, Landria. Well, welcome everybody to our webinar. These are webinars that are made in the time of COVID, so they have some limitations. And the actual talk that I give on this subject, the day in the life of the circle, requires a lot of interactiveness that doesn't really work very well in the virtual format. So what I've done, I prepared a video, and this video is uses myself and my son, because we were in isolation, quarantine, you might say. All we had was each other, so we prepared this video. And this video was originally prepared for the Alzheimer's Association for their education conferences. And it's designed especially for people who are doing home care. So what we're going to do at the end of it, we'll show the video, and then at the end, I'll answer questions. So if you have questions, send them in, and I'd be happy to answer whatever I can answer, particularly with regard to how you adapt the activities for different stages of dementia. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and show the video, and it is about 30 minutes. That's about what it is.
Hi everybody, I'm Beverly Sanborn, and I'm here to bring to you 6 domains of brain games. I'm so happy that you're going to join us for this session. Now, these brain games are a part of a whole panoply of learning sessions today that are exercising your mind, your body, your spirit, social interactiveness, but they also help your brain stay agile and active. Everything that you've done today helps your brain stay agile and active. Now, the brain games are specifically designed to exercise what we are calling domains, special parts of the brain that when you exercise them in a very specific way, they will help your brain develop what we call cognitive reserve. They'll help your brain grow extra neural pathways and keep your brain agile. The games for today, we've designed them to be interactive. So it would be helpful for you if you want to follow along. You're going to need a piece of 8.5 by 11 paper and a pencil. And I have recruited my son, Greg, who is going to join us. Greg, you want to come on over?
Absolutely.
Okay, here we go. All right.
Absolutely, glad to be
Greg,
here.
I always practice everything on Greg, right, Greg?
That's right.
It's true. So Greg and I are going to do the games together. We'll take turns doing the games. Now, in the course of it, we're going to do a little simulation of what can sometimes go wrong when you're doing a game and how to get out of that difficulty so that you'll have a chance to apply some of the communication strategies that you learned in the previous session. That part will be a simulation, but some of these games are, Greg doesn't know what I'm bringing to him, and I don't know what you're bringing to me. So,
all right.
Yeah. Now we're going to do the games in 6 domains, and we'll tell you what the domain is. Each domain, we will explain the domain, and then we're going to illustrate with a game that will exercise that part of the brain. Does that sound okay, Greg?
Well, that sounds like what we've done at other times. We've done these games before. But you mentioned something about domains. I haven't heard.
You haven't heard the domain thing?
Yeah, we've done the games, but I don't know anything.
I did do a game, but I didn't know.
Domains.
Okay, well, now it's time to know the domains. Okay.
I think so.
Well, okay, the domains are referred to specific parts of the brain. And the brain has different lobes, different areas, different functioning areas. And there are areas that the researchers and neurologists have pointed out to us that need to be exercised on a regular basis in order to keep your brain agile. And so so what we've done is we've taken each area and we've specifically designed an activity to exercise that specific area. Okay, and here's the thing. It's just like when you, if you wanted to develop your deltoids, okay, then you would not want to do exercising like treadmill. You wouldn't want to do that. That would not exercise your deltoids.
Yes, that would not target your deltoids.
To target your deltoids, you have to do specific exercises just for the deltoids.
Yes.
The domains are the same kind of a thing. To target those parts of the brain, you have to do specific activities. So that's what we're going to do. Are you ready? We're going to and we'll start with domain 1, which happens to be my favorite domain.
It's a good place to start.
Yeah, and it's number 1.
Number 1.
But I made it number 1 because it's my favorite. Okay, so domain 1 is the exercising the frontal lobe, this part of your brain right here. Okay, and it's this part of the brain is involved in thinking, planning, somewhat in terms of speaking, and what we call sequencing steps, the step-by-step process, all of those processes, but especially thinking, planning, judgment. Okay, and one exercise that's very important for that part of the brain is an exercise where you organize ideas. You don't just say a concept or just speak. You know, we can talk to each other and say, hi, how are you?
Yeah, it's one thing just to repeat what you saw on the news.
Yeah, or just repeat, right, exactly. What you want is to have an exercise that makes you think, that stretches your brain. Now remember, for all domains, for everything that we're going to do, it is not going to expand your cognitive reserve. It's not going to build reserve unless you follow 2 cardinal principles.
Okay.
So everything we do has to be a mental stretch, and it has to be new to your brain. Both factors are critical. Okay. So, all right. So I'm going to start. I'm going to start with a proverb. What I want you to do, I'm going to say an old ancient proverb, which you've probably heard, so it's not new to your brain. But what is new to your brain is I'm going to ask you, what does it mean? Remember, a proverb is talking about life. It's a metaphor for how you live life.
Exactly, that's...
Yeah, it's not meant to be taken literally. It's a metaphor. Okay, so I want you to...
They do make you think.
Yeah, okay. So what I want... here's the proverb. Are you ready? You ready for your proverb?
I'm ready. I like them. I love these.
Okay, this proverb is, a rolling stone gathers no moss. What does that mean?
That's it?
For life? Yeah, that is it.
Wow.
What does that mean for life? A rolling stone gathers no moss. What do you think that means?
Well, one of the things about Proverbs is that they usually are very terse. They're very concentrated wisdom.
Yes.
So what it means to me is that it is a sort of an ancient way of saying, move it or lose it.
Move it or lose it. Or use it or lose it.
Use it or lose it. That's right.
Use it or lose it. Yeah, that is terse. I have no question about it. Okay, now.
That's a modern proverb. Move it or lose it. Or use it or lose it.
Use it or lose it. Okay, use it or lose it. Okay, now, when Greg says that. Use it or lose it. That's not wrong. It's one way to talk about the proverb, but that's not a mental stretch. You notice how first of all, it was very quick. He doesn't use many words. Okay, so here's what I'm going to say to Greg. And I want to say it in a way that is not going to make Greg feel that he made a mistake. It's very important that he not feel he made a mistake. So I want to come in with a positive when I want him to expand on that, but I'm going to come in with a positive, okay, a positive statement. So I'll say, Greg, it's a good answer. I mean, it is a good answer. But it's not quite enough to really make your brain stretch. It's not quite enough. Okay. So when you say use it or lose it, or you would say move it, which is movement, because a rolling stone is involved with movement. Mm-hmm. Okay. But what is it that you're using when you're thinking of that? We're thinking of a metaphor. What are you using when you say use it or lose it?
Well, in the case of the proverb, I think it would be using yourself, using your strengths, your abilities, your...
Yes, and so you can keep continually using yourself.
Yes.
All right, so the rolling stone, so what is the rolling stone? What does that symbolize to you?
Well, the rolling stone means that someone is keeping active, whether it be physically or mentally.
Yes.
Engaging in activities, never becoming stagnant or static.
So the rolling stone in that sense is a good thing. The rolling stone, you don't want the rolling stone to gather moss.
Yes, exactly.
You don't want it to gather moss. Okay, now for Greg, that is...
that would be a sign, if you allow yourself to gather moss, this means that you are allowing yourself to stagnate. You're not realizing your full potential.
You're not realizing your full potential. All right, okay. All right, so here's what
You're not living life to its fullest, that kind of thing.
Ray, you're really getting going on this one now. Now you see the difference in encouraging Greg to go into more depths, and so he's organizing his ideas. He's really gotten quite into it. This is still, however, not a mental stretch. To ask you to do, no, it's not. It's new to your brain. To ask you to describe what it means, that's new, relatively new, but it's still not a mental stretch. No, that was really too easy. So here's what I'm going to do to make it a mental stretch. I'm going to go one step farther. Okay, you ready?
All right, let's do it.
I want you to now think, because I can see you're favoring that rolling stone. You're favoring not acquiring moss.
Yes, well, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Well, let's look at it the other way. What if the moss is a good thing? What if moss represents something? Remember moss is a living thing. It's connected to the earth.
Yes, well, it is a part of nature.
Part of nature. And so if you let's look at it from the point of view of the moss. If a rolling stone does not connect, okay, so how would, see if you can work with that one a little bit.
Okay, I see what you're getting at. Yes, the absence of moss would then signify that you're not connected to everything around you. The moss is a part of nature that only starts to show up when a situation is stable.
Yes, the moss is connecting you to nature. So you could say...
Well, yes, it's an indication that you are connected to this whole environment. Whereas if the stone is rolling, it can't be a part of anything.
Yes, it's not a part of anything. Mm-hmm. That's the other way to look at it. Either interpretation would be all right. But you see, the point for Greg is you're more challenged. I mean, did you feel more challenged?
I sure did.
The second way was more challenging.
Mm-hmm. I hadn't thought of it that way.
No, I know. You tend to think of it the other way.
Right.
Which most people do, but not all by any means.
Well, I think it's kind of a Western culture.
Yes.
In the Western cultures, we have come to expect people to remain active and dynamic and always
Kind of on the move, too.
on the move, challenging themselves,
Yes, yes.
realizing their potential, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, now you see how that one little proverb has got you going. See, that's the whole
Yes, it
point.
certainly has.
So now you're thinking. Now you're organizing ideas and thinking. All right.
I think even when we're done with this video, I'm going to be thinking about it a little more.
You're still thinking about it. Now that we've finished domain 1, it's time to move on to domain 2, another very favorite domain. I do like this domain. Domain 2 is learning something new. Now, I want to present a principle to you. This is a principle of communication. When you're presenting any of these brain games, it needs to be what we call the just right challenge. Not overstimulating and not understimulating. It needs to be just the right amount. It needs to be stimulating, but just the right amount. So Greg is going to show you how he does this brain game with me, and he's going to do it wrong. It's going to be overstimulating and I'll be overwhelmed. I want you to see how he does it wrong, and then we're going to contrast that with how to do it correctly.
All right, Mom, now it's time to do a brain game in domain number 2,
Okay.
which is where you learn something new. So I'm going to tell you a new word that you probably have not heard before, and then I want you to tell me what you think it means, and then we'll use it in a sentence. All right? Are you ready?
I'm not sure.
All right, just give it a try, all right?
Okay.
Here it is. The word is
Yeah.
peregrination.
What?
Peregrination.
Peregrinate? Say that again.
Peregrination.
I have never heard of that word. What am I supposed to do now?
Well, I want you to guess what it means.
Well, I can't get. I don't even know what you're talking about. I do not know what you. That makes me so mad. I do not even know. I don't even want to do this anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. I've had it.
But just give it a try.
No, I'm not going to give it a try. I've had it and I don't want to do it anymore.
Well,
No.
we're trying to stretch
Yeah.
your brain. We're trying to do these brain games.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do it. Okay,
So-
that's it.
Okay, you wanted to stop there? Okay.
Okay, so what did Greg do? How many mistakes did Greg make? Let's think of, Greg, you can think of how many mistakes you made too. First, you didn't give me there wasn't any meaning to it. It didn't make any sense to me. Why would I mean, what is it that you're really trying to do? You didn't have any explanation.
No, I didn't try to get you interested
Yeah.
in the exercise.
No. And the other thing is you were a little too forceful. It was kind of like, see if you can do it. You know what I mean? Your manner it didn't feel kind, frankly. It felt like you were, one of those teachers that said, oh, you've got to know this. And then, as soon as I got upset, instead of stopping and leaving or apologizing, see, that would be the way to do it. Stop and apologize and say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Instead of doing that, you just went back, no, you've got to do it, which made me feel more overwhelmed than ever, and then I don't want to do it anymore. Now, if you get into a situation like this, the best thing to do is just apologize. Say, I'm sorry that that was a mistake. I shouldn't have done it. This wasn't right. You're right about that. You're right about that.
Because otherwise it just escalates and the person becomes even more agitated.
That's right. That's right. Okay, now we want to show how to do that brain game with the right kind of communication. Okay, the right way to do it. The first thing, it has to have a context. It has to have some meaning to me, and it needs to be something that I relate to. It's got to have some sense of purpose to me. Otherwise, I'm not going to want to do it. So let's try it again. This is scene 2, take 2. Greg's going to do it again. Okay.
Okay, Mom, now I would like to do a brain game with you that makes use of domain 2,
Okay.
which is where you learn something new. And I think that I would like to do an activity in which you learn a new word, because I know that you like words, you like to read.
Yeah,
you
I
like
love
learning
to read.
new words.
Yeah, I do love words.
And you enjoy using new words
Right.
after you've learned them. So let's make that our activity for this brain game. Now, the word that I selected is one that you probably have not heard of because it comes from a writing by the author Vladimir Nabokov. And he is the author who is famous for Lolita. Probably familiar with Lolita.
I remember Lolita. Ooh, that was quite a book.
Yes, so you don't have to worry about not knowing this word because it is very unlikely that anyone knows this word.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you the word,
Okay.
and then I will read the sentence in which this word appears from Nabokov's work.
Okay.
And then I'll give you it's a multiple choice. I'll give you 4 choices.
I get to guess?
And then you try to guess what the meaning of the word is.
Oh, okay.
And I'll try to guess with you.
Ooh,
And
good.
then we'll look at the answer and see what it actually means.
Oh, good. Okay.
And then after that, we'll try to use this word in a sentence of our own.
Oh, ooh, okay.
All right, so are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay, so the word is peregrination.
I have never heard of that word.
Peregrination.
Have you heard of it?
I had not heard of that word until now
Yeah.
myself.
Never.
Okay, so here is where the word appears.
Okay.
And this is from The Visit to the Museum by Vladimir Nabokov. The portrait, after some obscure peregrinations, was acquired by the museum of Leroy's native town. So,
What are my choices?
here are your 4 choices.
Okay.
Peregrinations, an episode of bargaining or haggling. Choice number 2, an act of traveling or traversing.
Okay.
Choice number 3, the state or condition of being lost. And choice number 4, a cleansing.
Well, I think it sounds like episode of bargaining. Obscure peregrination. They were haggling and bargaining.
Okay,
What do you think it is?
that is a perfectly reasonable
Yeah.
guess, considering that you've never heard the word before.
I know, never. What is it? What did you guess?
I thought, when I read this, I thought that the word was the state or condition of being lost.
Oh, yeah, well, that makes sense. I
So you can see how that would fit.
Yeah. So what is the real answer?
The actual answer is that it is an act of traveling or traversing.
Oh my gosh, peregrination.
That is what a peregrination is.
That's what we can't do anymore. We're kind of stuck in our houses. We
That's
can't-
true.
I would like to resume, this is my sentence, I want to resume my beloved peregrinations around the planet, Earth.
Yeah.
There
Forget the
was-
lockdown.
Forget the lockdown, I want to resume my peregrinations. Yes, what's your sentence?
That's a good one. How about something like, it is only through peregrinations that you find out about other cultures.
Wow, that's so erudite. Mine's a little more sensuous, I think.
Yes, a little bit more here and now.
A little more here and now, right, exactly. Okay, that was a very challenging domain too. That was challenging, but I liked it. That was good. Okay,
It's
now
supposed to be like that.
I'm going to challenge you with domain 3, where we're going to use your mind and memory at
Okay.
the same time. So it means organizing, it's recalling something that you knew in the past. So it's going to involve your long-term memory, but it's organizing it in a new way. That's the challenge of it. That's where the challenge comes in, is organizing it in a new way. And so here's what we have to do. We're going to do it. We'll do this one together. This one's kind of fun. And whoever ends with the ending person on this game will be the winner. This one has a winner. Okay? And here's the game. Yep. This is the game. We have to think of all the animals that begin with the letter B. Okay, I'm going to start with bison. Yeah.
Can you do something like bacteria? Would that count as an animal?
It's an animal. Yes, animal kingdom. That's a good question. Animal kingdom that begin with the letter B. So you can't say, okay, bacteria. Okay, then we'll just go back and forth. What is yours?
Okay, so you did bison?
No, I'm starting with bacteria.
Oh, you're starting with bacteria. Okay,
Yeah.
then I'll do bison.
Bison, okay. Bear,
Badger.
bobcat,
Bumblebee.
bighorn sheep.
That counts?
Yes,
So I guess I could do a blue-nosed dolphin.
it counts.
Okay.
Bluebird.
How about a bug?
I think bug.
Okay, make it a beetle.
Beetle. I like that. I mean, bug is a little too general. Okay, how
That is
about?
too general.
Yeah, that's too general. Okay, let's let's see. Blackbird, bald eagle.
Well, no, you didn't do blackbird. So we'll do blackbird.
Okay, blackbird, bald eagle. Okay, I'm doing bald eagle.
Okay. How about just a bear?
All right, bear, barracuda.
Ooh, that's a good one. Oh, a bullfrog.
Ooh, that's a good one. Barnacle.
You've got some good ones.
Is there a dinosaur? I like to go to the dinosaurs.
Oh, good idea. There's a brachiosaurus.
Yeah, brachiosaurus counts. Animal.
All right.
Yep, even if they're extinct. Blue whale.
Oh, a bat.
Bat. Ooh, how could we forget a bat?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm running out of them now. I can't think of any more. Black widow. I got one. Black widow.
You're still in the game.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I'm drawing a blank, but I know that there's more.
Yeah. Well, you have to see how many you all came up with, too. Okay, now we're going to move on to domain 4. And this is a domain of recalling your long-term learning. It's not the kind of domain where you just want to think of something that you had for lunch yesterday. You want to go a little bit more depth than that. Here's just a fun, simple one that is kind of a kick to do. It's to start with the President of the United States and then go backwards.
I'll start with the most current president.
The most current and go backwards. It's much easier to go forwards. It's surprising, but it's much easier. So let's start. So I'm going to start with President Trump, and then you're going to do who came before President Trump.
Okay, that was Obama.
Okay, and before Obama was George Bush, right?
Right. George W. Bush.
George W. Bush. W. Not like when she felt he had bad morals. Okay, who was before Harding?
It was Wilson. Woodrow Wilson.
Wilson was before Harding. Well, then who was before Wilson?
I believe it was Taft.
Taft was before Wilson.
I think so.
I can't remember. Somewhere in there. Okay, these are good. See, these are examples, and you can see. I mean, remember there was a time when we were at school we had to know all of that. I could rattle them off backwards and forwards, but. Okay, Greg, now we're whipping through these domains. We're coming up to domain 5.
Okay.
This one is very fun. It's analytic thinking, and there are just many, many different examples of analytic thinking. You can do, I mean, this is where Sudoku would fit in. But this is another one that is fun, and they're called solving the triplets. And these you can find in the internet. There's all sorts of internet ones. We're going to give you some, and you'll have a chance to look at them. We want to figure out what all 3 of these triplets have in common.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're starting the domain now.
Yes, we're going to do the brain game,
Okay.
and we're going to figure out what all 3 have in common. So the first one is artists, automobiles, and cooks. What do you think they have in common, Rick? They all use something. They all use something that would be in common.
Artists.
Artists, automobiles, and cooks. They all use something. I'm going to tell you the first ones because this will be.
I can't think of what they would have in common.
I will tell you what they have in common, and then that's our clue for how this game works.
Okay.
They all use oil.
Egads.
I know, it's a little crazy, but they all use oil. Okay, now we're going to do the next one. Water, baseball players, and pantyhose.
Water.
Baseball
players.
Yeah.
And pantyhose.
Yeah. I found this would be kind of hard. They all do something. Or actually think of baseball players. What do they do when they're on the field?
Well, they chase the ball around.
Which means that what do they do with their little legs?
They move them.
And it's called?
Running.
There you go.
So water runs, okay. Baseball players run.
Yeah.
Well, I would think that would be more sprinters and,
No, baseball players run, and then pantyhose runs.
okay.
Okay, you got that one. It took a little bit of prompting, but you didn't do too bad.
It takes some prompting.
Okay, pork and beans, music, and discharged employee. Your clue is, what do pork and beans come in?
A can. I've never seen it come in a box.
Yeah, this is correct. So, look at that. Does that fit?
Ah. Canned music? Okay. But not all music is canned.
No, but some is.
Okay.
And a discharged employee is sometimes referred to as being canned.
Being canned, yes, that's,
Okay, very good. Okay. Now we're going to move to domain 6. Now this domain is simultaneous mind, memory, and body movement. Your brain is definitely enhanced if you do something that causes you to try to remember, but at the same time you do a body movement, kind of like square dancing. If you do square dancing, you have to remember the steps, then the steps are called at random, and so you have to remember them, but you also have to move your body. This is very enhancing. This is why dancercise and dancing is very good for maintaining mental fitness. Okay, so
interesting.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. For this one, we're going to look at this for 11 seconds, and then we're going to try to draw it. We turn it off, and we try.
oh, draw it from memory. We have
Try
11
to-
seconds to try to memorize it.
Yeah, and then you draw it from memory. Okay, Greg, are we ready? Okay, so let's see how we did. So you got quite a few things.
Yeah,
though.
remember the 2 circles and the star.
Yeah, I missed the star. I did remember the flag. I think. So that is the end of our domains. So Greg, do you feel like your brain is chugging along here?
It was stretched.
It was stretched. So was mine. So what we want to remember now, some basic principles, is to work in all 6 domains. And remember, it needs to be a just right challenge. It needs to be not overstimulating, but definitely not understimulating. It can't be too easy for you. It has to be something new to your brain and a mental stretch. So thank you so much for being part of our session.
Thank you, Beverly. We'll go ahead and take some time for questions. The first question we have is, how do you engage someone with activities for the different domains who are nonverbal?
Well, when you're dealing with nonverbal, you're going to primarily use sensory materials. It's primarily sensory. You won't do anything as complex as what we showed. So for example, domain 1, where we did the proverb, you're not going to do a proverb. That would be way too much. But you want to think, how can I help this person think a little bit? So you might want to, for example, have a bowl of fruits, and they can smell the fruits. What is that? What is that? What is that fruit? See, it would be at that level. You might, for learning or for long-term memory, the domain of long-term memory, for example, you want them to possibly name the different fruits. Now, if they're completely nonverbal, then they're going to need to just feel it or touch it or taste it or smell. But it's in each stage, when you're adapting for a stage, you're going to simplify, and at the final stages, it's going to be almost entirely sensory. So translate everything you can think of into a sensory experience, a touching, feeling, possibly stacking, sometimes sorting. Sometimes sorting is another good one. And I've seen people nonverbal can still sort cards, for example. They like to sort cards, but you have to, the other thing you have to do with nonverbal is you need to observe what they like to do. So you have, what we like to do in our program that we call the neighborhood is we like to have a variety of sensory experiences and just try them out. We just try them and find what appeals to the person. It has to appeal to them. So that's basic. That's the basic principle for the very, very late stage.
Thank you. We have another question. Is there one domain that you feel is more important than the other?
Oh, that is a very, very good question. That's a very, very good question. The one domain throughout our whole lifetime, actually, that's extremely important is the one we call domain 1, which is practice organizing ideas. And that's the domain that we don't use enough. We can, all of us at any stage of life can fall into what you call lazy brain. What you really want to do is challenge your brain. And so you want to have activities. Well, here's a very simple one. Write down all of the cliches that you use. Like you use the word awesome. You know, that's just one of the new ones. Everything's awesome. Noun, adjective, adverb, conjunction. That word is so overused. Or I'm thrilled, or I'm so excited that I'm, you know, all of these cliches that we use. Make a list of them, and then and you can just start with one, awesome, and think, what I want to be very descriptive and explain what it is I mean. I'm not going to use the word awesome. Like for example, that was just an awesome concert. I went to, oh, that concert was just awesome. Well, discipline yourself to think, what was it about it that would cause me to use the word awesome? What is it exactly that excited me, that piqued my interest? Okay, and then describe it. That concert was exhilarating because I liked the energy flow that came from the music and the mood, or, you know, whatever it is. But make yourself be descriptive instead of relying on a whole batch of cliches. That would be one start. But that particular domain is underused in our culture, and we need to practice it more. But that's a very good question. The other domain that we don't do enough of is the last one, where we showed the picture of the design, where you have to look at the design and then remember it and use your fine motor coordination and your imagination to remember the shapes and forms. That's another very underutilized domain that is very, very useful at any age. I think children do more of that in school, but when you get out of school, unless you're in a design field, that one just lies fallow. You don't do very much of it. So those would be two that require really more practice on the part of most of us.
Thank you. There's another question asking about how the pandemic has changed the way that we as Belmont have been able to facilitate activities and engage our loved ones.
Well, that is, of course, the big challenge that we're all facing in our field everywhere, because the pandemic has forced us into several different modes. One is, when the pandemic is raging, when you have pandemic, you have what they call an outbreak of a number of people, then we quarantine everyone in their room. Well, now that is really exactly the opposite of everything that we've ever done or stand for, because we're a group-oriented culture. We establish a culture. So what we tried to do, we really in that phase of the outbreak, We recruit every single staff in the whole building, everyone. It doesn't matter what your job description is. And they have activities that our activity and memory care people provide them. Plus, it turns out a lot of our staff are really quite creative. And we just simply go room to room and really attempt to enrich the environment as much as possible during the quarantine. However, it's turned out that for the most part, as we've gotten to know what to do with the quarantine, we don't have to be quite that draconian. And we have, so even in an early phase, our residents can sit in their doorway and we do activity corridor. We usually have to use a microphone so that everyone can hear. Those have been actually so much fun, the corridor activities, because you still get the social feeling of social group and social interaction. And those darn corridor activities have been so fun that a number of our activity people have decided to continue to do them every once in a while. And we've had little parades in the corridors. We do exercise. Exercise works really well. But we've done all sorts of word games, memory games, a lot of what we illustrated on the video. You can do that at a corridor level. And then as the control in the building gets better and better, then we have small groups. We divide it into a whole series of small groups. And they sit 6 feet apart. They have to wear masks, that kind of a thing. But the small groups, again, one thing we've learned is that people really like small groups. They respond very well to a small group. Most of us really can't relate to 150 people, oh, well, this is a nice crowd. No, it's too much for most people. So the small group, they can bond and form relationships and enjoy each other. I'll tell you, the biggest thing that we've learned, if nothing else, is the importance of the stimulation and the importance of the social group. It's just vital. And one of the problems I see with home care, myself being home and not being out in our buildings, is the isolation. It's and especially if you have dementia, the isolation can be quite overwhelming. So we've done a variety of clever things. I think we've done a lot of experimenting, but we've set up like Zoom calls amongst the different residents, especially when they're in their room, when they're in that early quarantine, so they can talk to each other on a Zoom and see each other's faces and interact with each other. The social is just utterly, utterly critical. And then as soon as the public health department allows it, we are out with whatever kind of group is possible. But that's a very good question, really. And in our whole field, I think we've learned a lot. I have to say one interesting thing too. There's always a group of people in any of our buildings, in any assisted living, any place in America, really, who don't really like groups. They kind of prefer being in their room. And the one-on-ones, the COVID really got us visiting literally everybody and doing all sorts of interesting, fun things with each. And we reached out to people who are kind of what I call hermit people. And some of them, when we started forming the small groups, they came out of their rooms and joined. So we were very, very pleased with that. So we've been looking, we're constantly looking at our program of how to maintain the level of a stimulation that's required and as much socialization as possible during the time of COVID. And we're constantly evaluating, and we meet with each other virtually once a week and share ideas. And this has been, it's been a time of learning. It's been a big time of learning.
Could you speak about how unique the Circle of Friends program is and how it would differentiate from other memory programs?
Well, the Circle of Friends, first of all, is a program that is founded in the research that's constantly coming out about how to develop cognitive reserve, which is mentioned briefly on the video, but there really is no cure for dementia. There just isn't. But what we can do is to delay the symptoms by offering optimal stimulation, which basically enhances the brain. It enhances the brain so that the brain has more capacity. That's what they mean by cognitive reserve. You have brain cells in reserve, essentially. And so what we did is we've taken that research and then translated that research into programs that are fun to do. It has to be fun or no one will do them. And so we've translated it and we further translated it into the domains. That's kind of our contribution to the field. The neurologists talk about the domains, but a little bit differently. But what we try to do is translate it into something easy to understand and meaningful. And then for each one, we're going to add probably another domain, by the way, because of the research. We're constantly looking at the research and then redesigning, tweaking our program, what have you. But in any event, so it's a translation of research into program. We collect data on it twice a year and make sure that the results that we're getting, we have standards for the program. We want to see that we have standards for how much cognitive functioning a person should maintain over each 6-month increment. And we also have standards for participation, how much participation is there, and a number of others. And there is none of the other programs that I'm familiar with have this kind of rigor. The biggest problem I see is that people have tried to copy a Circle of Friends, and all they really do is separate individuals with mild or moderate dementia, and then they just provide the usual Bible, bingo, and ball toss, the 3 B's of assisted living. But you see, we don't do that. We have a corporate design calendar that took 2 years to develop, and it's very challenging. It's very, very challenging. It's very interesting. In fact, it's been so interesting that a lot of times our independent living people want to come to the group. They think, oh, that discussion sounds really good. I'd like to be part of that. But it's designed so that if you have mild to moderate dementia, you will have a feeling of success. That's you're challenged. You're always given a challenge, but you will also feel successful. That's what's very important. So it's adapted just for that level, for mild to moderate dementia. And I don't know of, there's a couple of university programs run by, with graduate students and handled by professors that are similar to what we do. But on the whole, I don't think that any other program, not any that I know of, has the kind of rigor, the kind of goals, the standards, and frankly, that are as interesting. Our programs really are very, very interesting. The other thing we do is we audition our staff. We don't just hire a cute, perky aide to take over. We don't do that. We audition the staff. They have to have a certain level of competence, and we also want them to have a certain level of education. They have to have some education. Otherwise, they can't handle the concepts and the goals. So all of those are very, very different. It's a program that takes an immense amount of work to keep the quality up. And so we have authentic experts in both the East and the West, who are the regional staff, and they check on the programs, especially now virtually, constantly. The programs are And they visit, they do field visits, and they do virtual visits, and they make sure that the programs maintain the quality nationwide. And they also, and they're authentic experts in dementia. They help with any kind of problem solving that is needed, which is always does seem to be needed, and especially in the time of COVID. They've guided the COVID piece very, very well too. So all of these are very different. Other programs don't have those, do not have those resources.
Thank you for that one. Can you briefly summarize the 6 domains that you spoke on during the webinar?
Yes. The the first domain, with all of the domains, now all of the domains for the mental fitness, now this is just for the mental fitness, are involved what we call the frontal lobe. This part of the brain here. All of them involve that. And that's the part that just really has to be exercised as well. The other element in the domains, about half of them involve a lot of verbal skills. Those 2 skill areas are required to maintain mental fitness. So domain 1 is basically organizing ideas. That's where you do the proverb, but there's many other ways to organize ideas. But that's a very important domain. And then for that video, we juggled around the domains, the numbers on the domains. Usually I think I make domain 2 using mind and body together. So that would be like dancercise. And then there's the domain of long-term learning, where you want to remember, you want to have your long-term memories tweaked and again organized. A lot of those have to do with history, for example, historical kinds of events and memories and things that you did learn in school but you have forgotten. And then learn something new. That's another domain. And what am I up to now, Andrea? 4 is that domain 4? Learn something new. And learn something new, that can be as simple as learning a new word, learning a new vocabulary word, and then using that in a sentence. That is kind of fun. And then the 5th domain is the analytic thinking, and doing something that involves math. Of course is good with that, but there's other forms of it. Some card games, actually games like bridge or chess, things of this. I mean, these are all very good for analytic thinking, Sudoku, those kinds of things. Crossword puzzles, see that, but that's just one of the domains, but that's a very good one. And then step-by-step sequencing. Now, step-by-step sequencing is part of the frontal lobe, and it is very nicely handled with crafts. But how many people do crafts in our culture? I mean, it's not a very craft-oriented culture. So we have to kind of dream up fun things that involve step-by-step sequencing, because that one really does need a lot of practice in order to maintain it. But crafts are one, cooking crafts, woodworking crafts, things of the sort. That's where the crafts come in. So that's all the domains.
Great, thank you, Beverly. And thank you everyone for being here. We appreciate you for joining us, and we hope you'll join us for our next Zoom webinar on December 10th at 1:00 p.m. We'll be covering healthy aging from a cardiologist's perspective. This next webinar will be held on the 10th instead of as our normal programming goes every other Thursday. The next one will be in collaboration with Belmont Village and Baylor Scott & White. So again, thank you, Beverly. And
okay, thank you.
thank you, everyone. You all have a good day.
Okay, bye.